I'm Trent O'Day, and in this video I'm going to be talking about motion capture technology. First, we need to know what is motion capture. Motion capture is a technology involving the use of a skin-tight bodysuit with special markers or sensors strategically placed on it and a number of cameras that record the movements of people and can be recreated into an animation on a computer program and then analysed. Motion capture technology can be used for a variety of different reasons, such as actors in a movie, programming robots. However, today we're going to be looking at it through a biomechanical lens, specifically when looking at someone's gait cycle. The reason I've chosen to critique motion capture's ability to assess gait is due to the vast variety of information that can be gathered from the one piece of technology. We can look at all aspects of the subject's gait through motion capture, such as their center of mass, their stride length, calculate things such as their linear acceleration, velocity, and especially view the way in which their skeleton moves through their gait cycle. The technology has been specifically designed for biomechanical analysis of movement. So how does it work? When we want to assess a movement or a series of movements using motion capture, sensors are placed all over the body of the subject performing the movement, especially on their joints. The subject will then perform their movement, in our case their gait cycle, in an open area that all of the cameras are pointed toward. Now, the cameras aren't actually recording the subject, but rather only the markers that are on the body of the subject. The cameras record the location of the markers in space constantly through infrared light, and their movements are loaded onto a computer program where we're able to get a simulation of movement that the subject has made by quite literally joining the dots and creating a human-like shape. This is the animation of someone's gait cycle once the dots or sensors have been joined together with lines. The lines represent the bones of a subject. We are even able to input a skeleton to take the place of the lines that connect each of the markers, so that we are able to analyze the animation while visualizing a real human skeleton, moving how a human would, rather than just some lines and dots. In biomechanics, we use motion capture to assess the movements of a subject's bones when performing an activity. When we look at gait, we need to be able to assess everything involved: the stance phase, which is approximately 60% of the gait cycle, the swing phase, which is approximately the remaining 40% of the gait cycle, foot clearance over the ground, stride length, and even the arm swing and torso stability. Motion capture allows us to easily assess all of this from a variety of different angles in the 3D animation it provides. Ideally, if motion capture can be used in conjunction with force platforms, it would allow us to perfectly assess all components of a subject's gait. So in order to interpret the data, we need to look at and play with the animation that our computer program has generated, which will form a general shape of a human body and replicate exactly what the subject has performed. With the program, we are able to replay the animation at varying speeds and view it from a multitude of angles to determine lots of different biomechanical factors surrounding the subject's gait cycle. Now let's talk about those biomechanical factors we just mentioned. So we have center of mass. During the subject's gait cycle, motion capture is recording the subject's markers in the coronal and frontal planes, which allow for the tracking of their center of mass. A study by Plouffe and colleagues explained how the motion capture animation can estimate the center of mass and track its movement through the subject's gait cycle. Kinematics. So how about kinematics, and what motion capture can tell us about them? Well, speed is simply the distance traveled divided by the time taken. Velocity is the change in displacement divided by the time taken, and linear acceleration is the difference in start and end velocities divided by the difference in start and end times. Motion capture can quite effectively provide us with the ability to calculate these, as the recorded animation will provide a time taken, a distance covered, and a displacement if the gait cycle happened to not be linear and the subject was walking in different directions rather than a straight line. We can then plug in all of the values that motion capture has provided into the required formulas to calculate the information we are after. Stride length is yet another thing motion capture can provide us with when analysing gait. Motion capture may not be the simplest method to obtain stride length measurement, but it's still a piece of information that the technology is able to provide us with. All of these points are great when assessing factors of someone's gait. However, perhaps what motion capture is best at is providing a clear picture of the entirety of a subject's gait cycle. The animation of the subject's gait cycle shows us exactly how their skeleton moves while the subject is walking. We can see the angles created at different joints, the range of motion that the joints progress through, and any abnormalities in the gait cycle, so we can therefore determine the overall fluidity of the subject's gait. With such an accurate animation of a subject's gait cycle that can be viewed from multiple points of view and played at any speed, any problems or minute complications that may be present will be easily identifiable. So how easy is motion capture to use? Well, motion capture unfortunately isn't something so simple to use. The setup and running of the technology requires experts in the field who know exactly what they're doing in order to make full use of its accuracy. The cameras all need to be in sync with one another so that they are all recording the same marker on the same frame. The cameras will also need to know the origins of the X, Y, and Z axes, which represent the 3 planes of movement. You will need an expert to accurately place the required sensors on the specific joints and bony landmarks of the subject, and another expert to successfully set up and operate the camera system and computer program. Now, all good things tend to come at a price, and for motion capture it's a hefty one. The cost is in the range of $50,000 to $100,000 for the complete setup. The variance in price is due to the number of cameras that are used in differing setups, and if everything involved is the top of the range and the latest release, or if there are some older models involved. The benefits, however, do pay themselves off if it can be afforded. The accuracy of this technology is very fine-tuned and is accurate to within plus or minus of 1 millimeter. It has all of the capabilities we've spoken about already and can be used for analysing any form of human movement other than just gait. Like all technology, motion capture has its advantages and disadvantages. The advantages of motion capture, as we've spoken about, is its accuracy, the sheer amount of data that we are able to extract and calculate from analysing the animation it provides, such as the kinematics, the change in the centre of mass during the gait cycle, stride length, the ability to view the subject's gait from a multitude of angles, the ability to speed up the animation or slow it back down, and that it can be used for analysis of human movement regardless of how complex, not just gait. Of course, there are also disadvantages to the technology, although not too many. We have the sheer cost of the technology, which means it isn't a reality for most unless they're a large biomechanics lab or a university with the budget for the technology. The expertise required to run the technology, so even if the funds are available, an expert would also be required to make use of it. The setup also requires a lot of space and it isn't portable. The final disadvantage to the technology can be the accuracy required in the setup, specifically with the markers placed on a subject. If markers aren't accurately placed on different subjects performing the same test, or even the same subject retesting, it could cause a different animation, resulting in an imprecise analysis. Now, to put all of this into some form of context, a study on the abilities of differing motion capture technologies to analyse gait was conducted by Pfister and colleagues. 20 healthy adults who regularly undertook physical activity were selected for the study. The study compared Vicon motion capture technology, which is the type of technology we have discussed in this video and is considered the gold standard, against Xbox Kinect technology, which is predominantly used for gaming in people's homes. 3 main comparisons were made in the study: the technology's tracking ability, stride timings, and angular displacement of joints. On average, the Kinect technology missed 8 to 18% of steps taken and significantly struggled when knees crossed behind one another from a lateral view. The camera also has a much slower resolution and refresh rate and was designed to capture movement in the frontal plane only, whereas Vicon captures movement in a 360-degree field of vision. When looking at stride timings, the Kinect consistently measured longer stride timings than the Vicon. However, there was a correlation between the two and the error margin of the Kinect was small, but still present. When comparing angular displacement, the Kinect was able to record a basic level of joint movements representing gait. However, there was far more variation compared to the Vicon. The study came to the conclusion that while possible to analyse gait to a degree through a far cheaper technology such as the Kinect, it certainly would not be acceptable for clinical application in the field of biomechanics. Thank you for watching, and I hope you now have a better understanding of motion capture's ability to analyze or assess gait.